Hello and welcome back, everybody. This is Brandon Griffin, aka the Realty Resource, and coming at you with another Rooster. This is my weekly update segment, formerly known as The Reason That I Shave, but now that we're kind of back to work, keep it clean. All right, so the first thing's related. We talked about showings coming back this week, and they are back, but they are not consistent. The guidelines are not consistent across any given municipality or city. It's a statewide order, and then every city and county can do whatever they want that's stricter, and many are. So it's run into this issue where if you're a seller, there's a liability if you allow showings and you're not supposed to. If you're a buyer, there's a liability if you do showings and you're not allowed to. So everyone's got to be doing their homework right now, and there's a lot of resources out there. We'll post a link to all the health areas that you can actually check for any given city or county if you want to see if you can actually do a showing. And then specifically, there are guidelines that we're using while we're doing showings. And that is, if you're going to do a showing, you can expect that it's only going to be you and maybe one other purchase participant and your agent. No extended family, no children. We're trying to keep it to 3 people. And then masks and gloves will be worn. If they're not provided by your agent, please bring some. And we're also supposed to actually clean it after we do the showing. So the hardest part about all this is that because there are no overlapping showings allowed, the showing times that we normally do in about hour chunks make it so that there's only maybe 4 showings, 5 showings available for any given listing. As such, you have to be able to move really quick. So if you like something, send it to your agent right away. Make sure they can book a slot. And instead of us working around our schedules and then booking it, we're booking it and then we're figuring out how we can make it work. So you got to be quick, and we got to be flexible in this time right now until things start to go back a little bit more to normal. So that's what's going on with showings. Real estate's coming back, which is great. We're seeing now that there are showings allowed, that we're seeing an uptick in everything. There was a great article today, or recently, by Matthew Gardner, who's the chief economist of Windermere, and he basically went through the entire breakdown of the former recession, the Great Recession, and kind of what's going on now, and tried to assess that same question that I've been getting a lot, which is, are housing prices going to drop? Is the market going to tank? And it's a new person saying essentially the same stuff, but if you like accents and fine art, and that makes you more credible, then you should definitely watch that. Otherwise, it's true, we're basically looking at different situation that's causing this, so likely to be a different result. However, we don't know because this is unprecedented territory that we're in. The mechanics that I've been talking about in my past videos still hold true. So if you really want to try to understand what everybody's doing to try to predict how the housing market's going to react, please take a look at those videos. And specifically, it all comes down to supply and demand. And the supply and demand is based upon, at least on the demand side, whether or not people can get loans, which is based upon the lending industry, which is, going through a liquidity crisis right now due to forbearance. So all of those videos I've recently recorded are what I'm looking at specifically to try to make an estimation of, will we see supply and demand shift dramatically, and if the prices will actually adjust. So you'll know for sure that if I see it coming, I'll be letting you know on these weekly videos. So please like, follow, subscribe if you want to keep up to date. If you're one of my clients, please let me know, and I'll get you onto a program that will allow you to see your housing value every month so we can keep on top of your options. And actually that leads to the next thing that I want to talk about, which is options for financial hardship. So if you are one of the folks that is being dramatically affected by this, unfortunately, it's causing you to have to rethink, can I make my mortgage or my rent payment? I've done previous videos on what the very next steps are, and that's open communication, open that dialogue with those who you pay. But there's also a couple other options that we will explore in next week's video. Now I'm going to do a quick tip on looking at refinancing, because if you're looking at the Great Recession versus the Great Pause, it really, people have a lot more equity in their home right now. So they actually have a lot more options. A lot of people just don't know how to analyze their options or even begin to access, those options or that equity in order to help out with maybe monthly payments or refinance to lower your monthly payment. I just did a refinance and was able to drop $600 a month. So obviously helps out a lot. So look forward to a quick tip on how to figure out if you can refinance and tap into the equity and what you can do with it, and how to shop different lenders, because not every lender is exactly the same right now in the situation that we're currently finding ourselves in. So, moving on to the next thing, we are looking at likely future waves coming of infections and thus, lockdowns and various other things that we've been doing. And this is coming from, a recent study. Actually, it was Goldman Sachs that was putting together. It's the 11th in a series, and they've got some really, really high-level speakers. So if you want to check that out, I'll link it as well. But it's likely that we're going to see waves returning as we all return to life and to work. And it's kind of a waiting game. This is new territory. It's hard to tell how this is going to affect us all. The vaccine research and the antibody testing is going in full force and making significant strides, but it's not going to, come to fruition fast enough. And so I think we're left in a situation where we're going to have to control what we can. And it's also something where we are going to be in a much better position if everybody takes the precautions, even if they don't think it's necessary, and does everything that they can possibly do, because what you do affects all of us and our ability to go back to normal, or what the new normal will be. So that, I know, is not necessarily real estate related, but truly it is, because if more waves come, it's going to affect businesses, jobs, financial development, obviously the economy, and thus the housing market. So looking a little bit further into what's happening now with Colorado businesses and the economy, the Secretary of State her most recent report basically came out and said that yes, we are seeing declines, and specifically, for the industries that we've all been talking about that were hardest hit, accommodations, bookings, hotels, travel, cruises, all that stuff, and then obviously the service industry. But there's also energy being hit really hard right now. So oil and gas is huge here in Colorado. It actually represents about 11% of all commercial real estate in Colorado is devoted to the oil and gas industry. So there's a lot of furloughs and layoffs happening there. It's hitting those people really hard. Also new entities, which make up the small businesses that we are creating, entrepreneurs and everyone coming into business. That employs a lot of people in Colorado too. So aside from people having lost jobs that existed, there's not as many jobs coming into existence. So both those things are going to affect, again, the demand side of things. And because of that too, there's a Cushman and Wakefield report, which I'll link, which is looking at, commercial real estate across all sectors is being strained right now. There's not as much demand, and the recovery is going to take a little while. So the nice thing about both the Colorado business perspective and the commercial real estate that is, related, is that we were in a much, much better place before all this started, I guess, versus the rest of the United States. And we're going to come out of it much, much stronger because of that. So, Colorado's just really, really well positioned for recovery. It still remains on the top of a lot of lists, and the reasons people come here are not changing as much as, they're not being affected as much by coronavirus. So job creation was a big driver of bringing people to Colorado, but the reason people are creating jobs here, those natural amenities, the lifestyle, the weather, all those things, they're not changing. So I really do think that we're going to be well positioned for a better recovery relative to the rest of the nation. I hope that all makes sense, and I hope that some of that was helpful this week. We'll keep following everything, what's relevant to you every single week. Please tune in. Also today, live at lunch, is going to be Kim West, a friend and partner of mine. She is a divorce attorney and counselor. She's offering a lot of help for those that are basically not necessarily being challenged financially at this moment, but there's the whole other side of this, which is the relationships, and the people inside the home. So we're going to take a look at that, and she's got some wonderful insights. So please tune in at 12:15 today for that live at lunch. Feel free to bring your questions. She's a wonderful person, and I know she's going to be happy to answer them. All right, until next week, we'll see you. Please like, follow, subscribe, and we'll catch you next week.